The story of how All Elite Wrestling was formed is a complex tale that has been told many times over from multiple viewpoints. Think of it like the classic film by Akira Kurosawa, Rashomon. In the film, a single event is presented from multiple conflicting perspectives from different characters involved, forcing the audience to question the truth and grapple with the subjective nature of the individual perception. Essentially, it's a story told through multiple, unreliable narrators, each with their own biased version of events. I'm MrHartgrave from Parts Unknown, the only AEW historian, and in this video we will look at what events occurred in history that led to the creation of a true alternative American mainstream wrestling company known as All Elite Wrestling.
I've been telling people on this channel to subscribe, and they won't.
Yes?
What can we do about that? Can you help me out? Maybe if you tell them to subscribe, they'll do it.
Threaten them. I'll threaten them for you.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. You don't have to do it till you're cursed.
It is hard to pinpoint the true start of AEW. Many will cite the first All-In pay-per-view event as the genesis of the company. But if we really want to explore the roots of the tree that is All Elite Wrestling, we need to go back in time to 2004 when another alternative American mainstream wrestling company had just launched a weekly national television program. Total Nonstop Action, or TNA, was secondary to WWE in 2004, and any wrestler who was signed there at the time would certainly consider it a big step up from the independent circuit, as most would have to maintain a full-time job just to be able to make ends meet while they would wrestle as a hobby. This was very much what the Young Bucks thought when they signed with TNA that year. Not only were they excited about the potential to earn more money and get exposure, but wrestling legends like Hulk Hogan were signed there. However, there was a serious downside in that TNA would expect them to change their look dramatically.
So we got offered the deals. We go home. They scan us the paper. We sign it.
We knew they wanted to cut our hair, and we knew they wanted our look changed. That's all we knew.
Well, the reason we knew that is because I got this email from Vince Russo on, it was like, I want to say it was maybe right before the new year, like the 30th or something.
Yep.
And it was a forwarded email, actually, because it was Terry Taylor sending me an email that Vince Russo sent him.
Yep.
Right. So it said, tell those kids their new name is Jin Mi. And
they need a haircut.
No, he didn't even say that. He said they said that to us the day we got there. He said, "Tell them that I want them to look like kind of like the Hardy Boys, but kind of not like them." Something like really weird and like, what does that even mean?
That's
like,
exactly what it was said.
Kind of like the Hardy Boys, but not exactly like them. And then we were like, what does that mean?
I remember you forwarding me the email, and I sat there on my couch depressed. Like,
yeah, we were like sad,
man.
And then, so I said,
there goes all our steam that I
So
thought
I said
we
to
were
Terry,
have.
what does this mean? Are you guys gonna have, I didn't understand. Are you guys gonna have gear for us?
Yeah.
We have to go get gear? Like, so Shelly kind of helped me out. He's like, go to the mall, buy some stuff.
You guys got to get some stuff. And we had
a few days.
We couldn't have a seamstress.
This was all happening so fast because we were thinking, this is a process, right? A few months. No, like in a few days, you're going to be on TV probably. Like, we didn't know.
We were.
So we bought we went to the mall and we bought with the Hot Topic and bought like skateboard pants and like all this. Then we brought Young Buck stuff too, hoping they would please God pick the Young Buck stuff.
Right.
So we get there the day of and Vince is like, y'all need haircuts, take these guys to get haircuts. And we're like, oh crap.
I remember thinking, oh gosh. So that's one thing I didn't want to do.
So D'Lo Brown's kind of the agent pulling us to Vince, and Vince is like,
is this short enough?
Is this short enough? And Vince is all shorter. We're like, come on, man.
And it was finally it got to the point where it was like,
and of course we're selling the seamstress or the hair girl. No. Like right here.
Matt, look at my hair. It's down to my cheek. Look at how stupid I look. I'm gonna look like a 12-year-old on TV.
And then of course Vince picked the skateboard pants with the purple bandana attached with the skate shoes. We're like, man, we could use the Young Buck stuff. But
looking back though, I wish I would have just sat down with Russo and said, you know what, can you explain the gimmick to me? I have no clue what we're doing.
Or why do I need a bowl cut?
We were scared. This was our first contract.
We were just like,
we were scared to death. We didn't know what we were doing. Nowadays it'd be totally different.
And our hair was dry and we looked like 12-year-old kids. It's like, what were we doing?
Yeah,
Not that we look any older now, but
do you remember meeting Dixie for the first time and what were your initial impressions of her?
She just seemed like a nice lady. I think, man, I want to say it was the first day. She was just like, welcome to TNA. And,
I honestly couldn't tell you.
Yeah, it was the first day.
I don't remember.
She welcomed us and she seemed nice. And I was like, that's cool. She wasn't intimidating. She was very personable, down to earth. Even to the day we left, she was
always nice.
To our faces, at least.
Yeah,
like
she was always
cool to us.
I remember the day we left, she even said, I don't see this being the last time
you guys will be back.
We work together. We're going to work more in the future.
Yeah.
What about Eric Bischoff? Members of
I didn't like him at first.
Why is that?
He just seemed like
standoffish.
Yeah. Like I felt like he thought he was better than everyone. Like he'd walk around with his chin up, and I was intimidated by him because it's like this guy has this crazy reputation. He's this is the guy that almost put Vince out of his. Like I just felt really intimidated about him.
And let's be honest, he looked at us like we're the X Division.
Yeah, he kind of
which was always looked down upon from almost everyone.
And that's how I felt. Like I don't even know if that's how he felt, but that's the way he made me feel being around him. And every time he would age in a thing, you would feel like he was kind of talking down to us. Like I don't know. I remember even at one point we worked with him a little bit, and I think at that point I liked him a little more because I think
we earned his respect.
I think he started understanding us a little more. Like we had this thing. It was on that one show, Reaction, I think it was called.
Yeah.
And he sat down and interviewed us. And he got to know us a little bit.
It went good. Yeah.
And it went good. And I remember for a while, like, things were okay. And, like, we were getting better positions on the show.
Yeah, and after that, I remember he said, would you guys be willing to do a street fight in front of an empty audience? And me and Matt loved the idea. Oh, that's great.
Well, that's different.
That's great.
It's grungy and dirty
and it would be with the machine guns, which was obviously an added bonus. So the four of us were like, yeah, let's do it. And you know what? Let's tear the house down. Even though there's no fans.
And we did that match, and it's still one of my favorite moments in TNA.
So. I think it's our best thing that we've done on national TV.
But I think we earned his respect that night.
Yeah.
And then he started treating us different. And then I liked him. And then for whatever reason, we did that short run. It was like the X Division versus
him and
a few other guys. And it seemed so real, because it kind of was. Like I remember at one point, we were doing this backstage like promo or pre-tape. and he he did it without even planning or asking if it was okay. He threw coffee at Brian Kendrick and made Brian hot. Brian's a hothead as it is. And he just threw it at him, and he's kind of like saying really real things to us about how he feels about vanilla midgets.
The promo got real, I remember, and Kendrick.
It got really real, and Kendrick was hot.
I remember him saying, "How can he do that without telling me?"
Yeah,
how disrespectful is that?
So then it fired us up. So I remember one time on live,
was the same night.
TV. Was that the same night?
We talked Red
into flipping him off. We're like, in a real life situation, if some guy's talking down to you, would you just sit there and take it?
Like, because
we knew what the lines were going to be.
I think Bischoff was doing this to him, to his face.
Yeah.
So we told Red, hey, you should flip him off.
And he did.
And that day, though, they're like, we need more guys that are not scared to do things.
Yeah, like Bischoff loved it. He's all, that was real. Yeah. It was great. So we were having fun doing this stuff because it was kind of real.
Then in one night they buried the whole X division.
I got jobbed out by I think Bischoff pinned me. Red got beat.
Red got squashed. We got squashed. Someone else got squashed. Spanky lost the belt to Abyss. I think.
I think that's right.
And one night they killed all momentum of the X division.
And that whole thing actually came from a really a real thing that happened. One day, it was what was the cage show called? Where everything's in a cage?
Lockdown, that's right.
Lockdown. All the X Division guys were kind of getting fed up.
Oh, we were all in the same match, actually.
Yeah, none of us were getting booked on house shows. We were unhappy about the direction. So Spanky, of course, we talked about this earlier. He's like the leader, the ring leader.
Yeah.
He gathered up all the X guys, me and Nick and Chris Sabin and Jay
Lethal, Red.
And he's like, you know what, guys, this needs to be changed. We need to get on more shows. We need a guarantee.
It should change now because today's a live pay-per-view.
We can sit out this first match, just sit on the ramp and say, we're not going out there until someone talks to us.
Right.
So we all blindside Vince Russo in the back.
We talked Spanky out of doing that because we can't do that.
Well, we can't do that. Let's go talk. Right. So we kind of blindsided Russo. We're like, we talk with you, and there's like 6, X Division guys going, Russo, we need answers.
And this was like an hour before the live pay-per-view.
And we sat down and we were just like, what's going on here? And
why do we not get booked?
And he told us his reasons. There's so many guys in the car, whatever he said. But I remember that a few weeks later, they wrote that basically into the show.
Yeah.
And that's what started the whole X Division,
But little did we know, we got a ton of heat for doing that.
Jay Lethal got fired like 2 weeks later.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then we just all stopped getting booked pretty slowly.
Yeah.
The Bucks were part of the X Division, a stable that was mostly filled with high flyers and risk takers. One of the wrestlers in that division was Desmond Wolfe. The Bucks had worked with him in Ring of Honor previously underneath the name Nigel McGuinness. To the Bucks' surprise, they were booked to win their first match in TNA against the Motor City Machine Guns. The TNA live crowds loved the Young Bucks and would chant Young Bucks, ignoring the new rebranding. This went on so much that TNA eventually decided to give Matthew and Nicholas, known as Jeremy and Max, the last name of Buck. It was here in TNA that the Bucks first met Kazuchika Okada, who had come to America to learn American-style wrestling. The Bucks took a liking to Okada and would let him use their dressing room. Okada would open up to the Bucks in time, and they would end up spending a lot of time together backstage. The Bucks and Okada would find that they had the same silly sense of humor and would endlessly prank each other. When they weren't playing pranks, they would build intricate mini-golf courses backstage using whatever was lying around for obstacles. It was here in TNA when the Bucks would have a series of great matches with the Motor City Machine Guns toward the end of 2010 that saw the Bucks turn heel, grow their hair back out, and even return to wearing the ring gear that they were wearing before coming to TNA. While the Bucks had a pretty solid initial run as a tag team in TNA, that all went sideways when it was decided they would break up and feud with each other. They really hated this and eventually ended up asking to be released, in part due to having a really good experience doing a dark match for a newly revitalized Ring of Honor with Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. Their contract paid them per appearance in TNA, and they struggled to make money when TNA lost an interest in them.
The contract was so bad, I'll tell you guys this, that sometimes we would fly to Orlando, we would have to rent a car, and we would have to get a hotel room and eat. By the time we would come back from some of those trips, we lost money wrestling for TNA.
Yeah. Getting national television exposure.
Yes. Our deal was $300 per match.
Well, and I had a side job at the time. I was working in a machine shop, and that job sucked. Like, it was like 105 degrees in my little area because I worked in. It was basically a rubber molding department. So I used these big gloves that came up here and these hot ovens, and I would burn my arms every day. I still have scars on my arms from this job. That job sucked. So I'd be on Spike TV I think it was at the time, it changed some. I think it was Thursday originally. And then like by, I would fly home. We would tape it though. It'd be taped on Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, right? It was never live back then. So people would watch me on TV on Thursday, but then that actual Thursday in real life, I was pouring hot liquid rubber into this metal mold. And I'm just sitting here going, I thought I made it. What happened? And I was so wrong. We hadn't even come close to making it.
Okada really didn't do well in TNA either. He was only used a handful of times and usually only in dark matches. But this wouldn't be the last time that the Bucks and Okada would work together.
These guys, Generation Me, these two guys, I don't even know what their names are. Okay, I don't think anybody knows what their names are. At 21 years old or however they were, they knew more about wrestling and the wrestling business than Vince Russo would have ever known. And when you try to explain to them for their own good, you guys ain't going to make money this way. You're not going to be around in 5 years if you continue to do this in one ear and out the other.
Turns out the Young Bucks are actually a fucking draw. Who knew?
Who figured?
Who knew? If you make a video on the Young Bucks, people come and watch it. It's been consistent. I've never had a Young Bucks video fail, I don't think.
It's almost like they're a draw or
it's
something.
Almost like that.
I grew up with like the Hardys and stuff, so I grew up a tag team fan. And then tag team wrestling became a little bit not important in every form of wrestling media for a little while. Like every company, just no one really valued tag team wrestling. So I kind of fell out of love with it. And then seeing Generation Me versus the Machine Guns and some of the just buck wild, innovative stuff those four guys were doing, it reignited my love for tag team wrestling.
You think TNA would have done better if they would have kept the focus on tag teams like them?
Yes, yeah. They definitely, I mean, because the Machine Guns, in all honesty, they got failed too. Yeah. There just was not a push for tag team wrestling.
Often, when we talk about the formation of All Elite Wrestling, we will focus on the main characters, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes. However, if we fail to take into account the full landscape of what was professional wrestling leading up to the formation of AEW, we will be missing important context as to why it was formed in the first place. The first side story that we will examine in this video is that of Kazuchika Okada. Okada started training to become a professional wrestler in 2004 and joined New Japan Pro Wrestling in 2007 as a young boy. A young boy is a young Japanese pro wrestler still in the training stages of their career. When not wrestling, young boys can be seen ringside assisting the veteran pro wrestlers. They can typically be identified by their gear. Young boys' ring gear is either black or solid colored tights, boots, and knee pads. When young boys are called to wrestle, they are virtually always outmatched, rarely getting any meaningful offense during the match. At this stage in their career, showing determination and an unwillingness to quit against more skilled and experienced wrestlers is more important than victory. New Japan Pro Wrestling has a tradition of sending young boys overseas before bringing them back to re-debut in a significant role. So this is what led to Okada spending an uneventful year in TNA in 2010, mostly losing in dark matches and spending a short time as Samoa Joe's Kato-inspired valet, O-Kato. This was a parody of an old character created back in the 30s as a sidekick to the crime fighter the Green Hornet, like Batman, but like not as cool. Kato was most famously portrayed by Bruce Lee in the 60s television adaptation. But this is like a really dated reference in 2010. Maybe if they would have waited a year, there was like a Green Hornet remake released in 2011. Who knows? Maybe they were inspired by TNA to do it. I mean, they weren't. This was stupid. It had no point, and it was borderline offensive. When asked about Okada's time in TNA, Jeff Jarrett, who was an executive there, said on his podcast, My World with Jeff Jarrett, that he was glad he had no part in it. Jeff would imply that it would have been a smart idea for TNA to give Okada a shot, since having a strong relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling could have done great things for the promotion. He said that they were aware that Okada had great potential. They just didn't act on it.
I've been called a racist. Okay, bro, because I have stated the obvious when it comes to foreign speaking wrestlers. Chris, let me give you this analogy. Okay, because right away people don't want to hear what I say, so I got to break it down for them simply. As a writer, bro, it's all about the connection with the audience. Okay? Absolutely. So the fans got to be able to connect with the talent. Well, you've got major obstacles when it's a foreign speaking talent, because you really got two problems. Number one, you've got the language barrier. Mm-hmm. They speak a different language. And number two, I think more back when I was writing than now, bro, a lot of the Mexican and Japanese wrestlers wore masks. Mm-hmm. So now, Chris, you take away the language, you take away the emotion in the face, it is hard to get American fans to connect. That's what I stated. And I've said it a million times, and I'll say it a million times now. Now, here's the interesting thing. Chris, you got to understand something. Bro, when I was working for TNA, WCW, WWE, bro, I didn't book wrestlers. I booked characters. So, a lot of times, Chris, management would have relationships with Japan or Mexico or AAA or whatever, and they would basically say to me, okay, Vince, we've got so-and-so for a couple of weeks, yada, yada, yada. Bro, I didn't know who they were. I didn't follow Japanese wrestling. I didn't follow Mexican wrestling. But now, because we've got to deal with them, I've got to put them on the television. I'll tell you what happened. And I'll tell you what Okada himself has said about it. Okay? I'll tell you what happened. So Okada's on the roster. Okay, no problem. He doesn't have a character. I don't know him. The reputation is he's got a great wrestler. So, all right, bro, we'll put him in there to wrestle matches. But like I said, I don't book wrestling, bro. I book entertainment and I book characters. That's how I made my career. But when like I said, when management said we've got a deal, we're obligated. Okay, I never fought that. Okay, no problem. We'll put Okada on the show. Okay, bro. Samoa Joe came up to me because I didn't know Okada from a hole in the wall, and Joe said to me, bro, Vince, you got to do something with Okada. And Joe told me, this guy's got a great personality. Vince, he's hysterical. He can pull. Joe told me all this. I didn't have a clue, bro. So it was Joe who really smarted me up. And Joe was talking about the entertainment side. He told me Okada was a hysterical guy, pulling pranks in the locker room and all this kind of stuff. So with that, bro, that's where we came up with the Kato character for Okada. Now, bro, Okada has said in interviews, because I've read them, that he was very, very thankful for the time in TNA. And he has even said doing that character taught him character work. And he had never done that before, never experienced it before. But that was a good experience with him at TNA. So I'm glad. I mean, I'm glad that worked out for him. I'm glad he was able to do that and go on to, you know, the Rainmaker and do what he's doing now. But yeah, bro, that's basically, you know, where I got the idea from, my working relationship with him. And I'm glad he appreciated it and was able to use that going forward.
Okada's experience with TNA eventually led to the end of the relationship between that promotion and New Japan Pro Wrestling. This was a total disaster. I mean, who knows how things could have, you know, worked out with TNA had they treated Okada, you know, correctly.
Many people ask me, why you hate TNA? You know, but I don't hate TNA. Yeah. Thank you, TNA. TNA made me not Rainmaker, but good thing for me.
When Okada returned to New Japan Pro Wrestling in 2012, it wasn't with the black trunks and the tights that he left with. Instead, he became the Rainmaker. Okada had dyed blonde hair and an elaborate entrance. The Rainmaker gimmick is that of an arrogant, big-time athlete. Looking at it today, it comes off more like a parody of modern WWE. Maybe best embodied in someone like Logan Paul, who was honestly probably inspired by Okada. The Rainmaker gimmick was truly ahead of its time and set New Japan Pro Wrestling on fire. He has currency drop from the ceiling during his entrance, and his heel work is more entitled arrogance than dastardly evil. In a Q&A on the New Japan Pro Wrestling website, Okada said regarding his Rainmaker gimmick, "To make a long story short, it's this American phrase connected to people that can come into a company and instantly make a ton of money for them. And I thought it would be a cool fit for me in New Japan Pro Wrestling, so it became my nickname. It's like the $1 Million Man cranked up to fucking 11, except instead of, you know, paying you off to take a dive, Okada would instead just pummel you within an inch of your life and deliver a finishing move called, you guessed it, the Rainmaker, that would almost literally turn the opponent inside out. Okada says he named his finish the Rainmaker to further strengthen his brand. Okada took inspiration from outside of Japanese wrestling for the move, he said. As for the move itself, you see that wrist clutch and the extension quite a lot in Lucha Libre. I can't remember the match, but I remember seeing it in America and thinking it looked cool. And I always thought something leading to a lariat would be a cool finish, so one was added to the other. Well, it just came down to thinking which would have more of an impact. Unleashing everything through a lariat like that is more powerful, I thought. Okada is not really like anyone else who's come before. He is stoic and confident, but not like a stupid confidence. He can back it up. Like the man with no name from an old spaghetti western. He shows no emotions because he doesn't need to. He knows he's better than everyone else in the roster. He's truly on another level. A level that no one else will ever reach. If you are thinking he's like Roman Reigns right now, well, you'd be wrong, because while the tribal chief was all of these things as well, he was also emotional, constantly raging under the surface. But Okada is something else. The key difference here is the lack of emotion at all times. When interviewed, he would never be excited or nervous or anything at all. He always feels nothing. The exact opposite of Kenny fucking Omega. But let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet. About Okada, wrestling is not something special for him. He just has to go out there and do what he was born to do, win. Even after winning the International Wrestling Grand Prix, the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, at only 24 years old, he is asked, "How do you feel about becoming champion?" Okada's reply is simple, I feel normal. The International Wrestling Grand Prix Heavyweight Championship is one of the most prestigious belts in all of wrestling. The original IWGP Heavyweight Championship was first introduced in 1983, and the inaugural champion was determined by a 10-man round-robin tournament. Participants included world heavyweight champions from other international promotions. One of these champions was none other than Hulk Hogan, who was wrestling in Japan after being fired in the WWF in 1981. Hulk Hogan would win this tournament by knocking out Japanese wrestling legend Antonio fucking Inoki. There must be a whole alternate universe where Hulk Hogan never went back to the WWF and instead stayed in Japan, and I happen to think that might have been a better universe. But back in our universe, the next holder of the belt would be Inoki, and he would hold it for 1,027 days until it was replaced by a newer version of the belt that would go on to be held once again by Inoki and other Japanese wrestling royalty like Tatsumi Fujinami, Big Van Vader, The Great Muta, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Hiroshi Tanahashi. Okada would go on to hold this belt 5 times and hold it longer than any of these former champions for a total of 1,790 days. Okada would define Japanese wrestling in the 2010s. Okada would have the longest IWGP Heavyweight Championship reign in history, holding the belt for 720 days. This reign would contain the most acclaimed series of matches, his battles with Kenny Omega.
He stood ringside for all of his classics in Japan.
Of course.
And I was like, wow, that guy's good.
And what sucked is we had to root against him.
The entire time I watched from ringside, I was going, Kenny's good.
Well, Okada's better.
Okada's a little bit.
Jesus,
you read my mind, brothers.
Let's go.
Right?
I'm the best.
I love you, man.
I love you too.
This is the best version of the Elite.
Yeah.
I just got the chills when you said yeah. See that?
When he said yeah? Me too.
You could say they didn't know at the time what a big star Okada was going to be.
Yeah.
But they kind of did.
Yeah.
They were being told this guy's really good.
Right. Like you can say that he wasn't the Rainmaker yet because he wasn't.
He wasn't.
But when Japan hands you this guy and it's like, this is our future megastar, because that's what they did. They sent their future megastars to America for a little bit.
Yep.
And so nobody came back to Japan and floundered. They all came back and had star-making runs.
Yeah.
And to have somebody's eventual megastar and you're just like, whatever the hell that is, I don't even know what to call that. The stupidity just radiates from this entire thing.
And this is Vince Russo's brainchild right here.
Oh my God, no freaking surprise there. Jesus Christ.
And it's Okada. And we know what Okada goes on to do.
So on top of already being the mid-2000s organized independent company, I mean, they were really I'm not saying that they actually affected AEW, but they were like AEW Diet back in the day, where it's like, this is an indie company that has a TV deal. Like, we have all these indie darlings. We're signing up the Ring of Honor people. We're signing up Samoa Joes. We got the Christopher Daniels.
Nigel McGuinness.
These guys. Nigel McGuinness. And we're going to give them a place where it's just the elite of the elite. And I mean, Low-Key was there as a very mid-level X Division guy. He eventually won the title and stuff. He was kind of a founding father of the division, but they were very much like a precursor to AEW in terms of just being stacked to the gills with talent.
But at this time, they were more focused on pushing the legacy guys.
This is whenever they stopped being AEW light and started acting like WCW light.
It's an unfortunate time for Okada to end up there for sure. I mean, he did go on to say that, this kind of taught him that he needed to work it out for himself, and this directly led to the creation of the Rainmaker.
Right.
So I think it all worked out for him in the end.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not a sad story. It's just a sad story for TNA. Like, who knows what could have happened if they would have, kind of treated him better.
Right. I mean, some wrestlers have to experience some carny ass promoter taking advantage of them to realize their value and realize to stand up for themselves, to jar their creative juices. So Okada definitely, I think if you asked him, would he do it again? He would say yes, because he needed this experience. He needed to be this Green Hornet character in order to become who he became today. But TNA missed out on a lot of money. A lot of money.
There are only a handful of wrestling matches that have changed the world. Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3. Ric Flair versus Antonio Inoki at Collision in Korea. And I'm sure you could name numerous others that came close in the comments below, and most of what you'll see there are matches that happened in the United States that occurred in a WWE ring. But the one match that has done more to alter the course of human history in recent years would happen in Japan between two wrestlers who probably would have been treated like mid-card jobbers in the WWE, Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada for New Japan Pro Wrestling at Wrestle Kingdom 11. This match would kickstart a revolution that would not only lead to a foreign promotion having unprecedented success in North America, but would also culminate in the creation of a secondary, yet very successful big-budget wrestling promotion emerging in America, All Elite Wrestling. After spending 6 years wrestling for DDT in Japan and other small American promotions, Omega would sign his first big-time contract with New Japan Pro Wrestling in 2014, and he would join the Young Bucks in Bullet Club. 2 years later, he would turn on AJ Styles and take over the legendary stable. In the aftermath of Omega taking over Bullet Club's leadership, he and the Young Bucks formed their own subgroup within the stable called The Elite. Omega and the Young Bucks felt the need to create something new. So much had changed since the formation of the faction that Bullet Club was not so much the Bullet Club anymore. Omega noticed that when people said the Bullet Club had been doing some really cool stuff, they always meant him and the Young Bucks and not the other members of the group. Nick and Matt would start filming their life on the road as professional wrestlers and uploading it to YouTube under the name of Being the Elite. They would add more members to Bullet Club as well: Adam Cole, Adam Page, and eventually Cody Rhodes. The group of Cody, Adam Cole, Adam Page, and the Young Bucks would spend more time in the United States representing Bullet Club and Ring of Honor, while Omega would stay based in Japan in the main event scene of New Japan Pro Wrestling. The wrestling world would be changed forever in 2017 at Wrestle Kingdom 11, when Kenny Omega would challenge Okada for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship in a match that is now known as one of the greatest matches in the history of professional wrestling. I was a lapsed wrestling fan. I hadn't watched wrestling in about 10, 20 years. News of Omega versus Okada got to me. But I heard that, the best wrestling match in the entire history of wrestling happened. Right. And, you get curious. Late night, I was laying in bed, and I pulled it up on the internet. You can go find it. All this stuff, if you want to watch Omega versus Okada, all 4 of these matches, you can just search them on Google. They're not on YouTube. They're on other sites. But there's English commentary, which was my first surprise. I thought I'd have to watch it, and I was determined. I was like, I'll just watch it with Japanese commentary. No, it's English commentary, so you have it. There's no barrier here. You don't need to watch anything before or after or around it to understand the story of Omega versus Okada. That's the other surprise I had when checking this out. All of the story is basically in the ring. And after I watched the first Omega versus Okada match, which is my favorite one still, I was hooked, and I had to watch the other 3. I had to see the story end. I wanted to see it again. And every time they've matched up, it's been just as good. And people say better. I really like the original match because of how insane Kenny Omega is in the original one.
I didn't know about New Japan. Ring of Honor didn't have a TV deal at the time, or like a very like network cable kind of deal. So I didn't know a lot of Ring of Honor guys. I knew Generation Me. I didn't know the Young Bucks. I knew them from their very short run in TNA. Nice. I knew whatever the hell Okada was, where he was like the Green Hornet ripoff.
Oh God, yeah, Okada. Yeah. Okada.
That's how I first experienced these wrestlers, and I had no idea about Japan. And then, like you said, this like monumental event happened, and this match happened, and it was like a bomb went off, and it was just like the aftermath reached all wrestling fans and just people at all in general.
It's the story of Omega becoming the best wrestler in the world. Right. I think that's the best way to kind of sum it up, is when he starts, he isn't. He has a lot of promise, and by the end, he has figured it out. He's become less crazy. You know, he has refined himself. He's channeled his energy. He's fought off his dark side, and I mentioned it before, you can tell how evil Omega is by his hair color. It changes from black to blonde as you go through this series of events. His gear changes from like the Terminator to like rainbow. He has like rainbow colored tights in the very last match, and he's reunited with his long-term friend, his tag team partner, Ibushi, by the end as well. And so with the help of his friends, and he's brought everybody back into his life. When he first fought Okada, he had pushed everybody away in pursuit of this goal. And once again, you can gather all this from watching the match. After I watched, once I got to like the fourth match in the series, like I was just feeling emotions.
Yeah.
And it was weird. I was like, why am I so emotional about professional wrestling? And I'm like, wow, maybe it's worth getting back into.
And that's the entire point of a wrestling match, is to make you feel things. Yeah. It's supposed to make you care. It's supposed to make you suspend your disbelief. Because, I mean, let's be real. We're grown men wrestling around in our underwear. Like, for anyone who does not watch it and does not give it the time of day to get drawn in, it looks very weird. But whenever you sit down and you watch it and you get into the stories that these men are telling, you're buying into the painting that you're watching these two artists paint at the same time. It's such a beautiful thing. And Okada versus Kenny Omega, I've never seen Ibushi team with Kenny Omega in my life. No. I didn't know that they used to be friends. I had no idea about any of that, and I still got all like choked up watching them finally reunite at the end of these series of matches. This was like a nexus event of what we now know as modern day wrestling. Just like Rock and Austin was a very like nexus event for what wrestling was in the 90s. And Hogan and Andre before that. Like, there's these feuds, there's these series of matches, there's these moments that become the catalyst for everything that wrestling becomes for the next decade. And this series of matches was 100% the catalyst event for the wrestling that we get to enjoy today, and largely on the AEW stage.
This series of 4 matches between Okada and Omega between January of 2017 to June of 2018 would go down as the most influential series of matches in the last 20 years of wrestling. These matches would set the stage for Jericho versus Omega at Wrestle Kingdom 12 and eventually to the creation of All Elite Wrestling. This was not just a series of amazing matches between two wrestlers in their prime. It was the apex of what was possible outside of the WWE, and proof that there was a market for another style of wrestling in America. No matter what you think about Dave Meltzer, he was and is a respected journalist in his field, so for him to go out of the way and break his star rating system for the Okada-Omega matches says a lot about just how unreal the series was.
When you talk about the matches, who remembers any of your fucking matches, Will? Nobody remembers them. You want to compare apples to apples now? Who's got the better matches against Okada? Who's got the better matches against Naito? Who's got the better matches against Ibushi, Goto, Tanahashi, freaking Yoshihashi, all these motherfuckers? And I know what you're probably going to say. Well, you ain't never wrestled by the way I did, brother. gives a shit? Who fucking, let me fucking do some of that to that. You know, I'm like that. We're talking about the major players, the stuff that was bringing in the ching ching, bing bing, a la ting ting. That was yours truly. That was me only, not you. It wasn't you. You never made a cent, never made a dime for the company. Nothing, not at all. Call yourself the king all you want. Call yourself the best all you want. You ain't that. I was that. And that memory still remains. They ain't never forgetting me. But I wouldn't be surprised if they already forgot you, Will. That's why you're looking to go out to Uganda. You're trying to make your own legend out there. But guess what? If I go to Uganda, I become the Ugandan king. Me. I do. But if you want it so bad, you can have it. Have it for a few months. Then maybe I take that flight. We'll see what happens then, huh? Pal. Buddy pal. All these guys. Jesus Christ. Every freaking person. I'm the best in the world. I'm the best in the world. I'm the best in the world. Oh, wow. Well, since you said it your fucking self, I guess it must be true. What the fuck is going on in wrestling these days? Everyone has to say it about themselves? I never fucking said about myself. This shit. People calling me the best belt machine. People calling me the best of all time. I never once said it. I never once. These names are given to me, and thus I repeat it. That's fucking all. That's all I'm doing. I'm a victim. I'm a victim of being the best in the world. You guys are just imposters. You're fucking frauds. Hello? What? Bitch. Ho! Go ahead. Fucking recite that formula over and over and over again. That Dave Meltzer formula. Get that fucking Dave Meltzer checklist every time. See if anyone remembers or gives a fuck aside from Dave Meltzer. Bitch. Bitch. No one do. Just him. One guy. Period. I get the love of all the people and Dave Meltzer. Try doing that, motherfucker. No. I am not healing on Meltzer. He is just but one guy with one opinion who's watched a lot of wrestling. It counts for something. It counts for something. But he's jumped the fucking shark, so it doesn't count for much anymore. He has jumped the motherfucking shark, and guess who is to blame for that? Me. I'm the guy. I broke this scale. It fucked up something in his brain where he doesn't even know what good matches anymore. He's just like, Kenny, you opened my mind to this weird fucking world of wrestling that I never saw before in my life. And I think he doesn't understand it anymore. He stopped being able to understand. He can't comprehend what's going on. I opened Pandora's box and it's just running rampant now. That's all it is.
Years before Omega and Okada changed the world, the Young Bucks had made the move from TNA to Ring of Honor, and a decision would be made by those who were in charge of Ring of Honor at the time that would dramatically alter the course of wrestling history.
Is there a beef between you guys and Jim Cornette?
Yeah, I guess so. He hates our style. He left us home when we were under a contract for Ring of Honor, and we left TNA for them, so there's heat there because we were starving when he begged us to quit TNA to come work for him in Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
So there's legit heat
We
there.
don't feel like he did his best to help us out in our situation, and this is personal because we're talking money, taking money out of our children, food out of our children.
Where we had a guaranteed thing at TNA, and we risked it by leaving there, going to something that we thought would be even better.
We put our trust into him, and maybe it was our fault for trusting him, but we don't feel like he did everything he could to help.
He put the blame on other guys in the office. We don't know who it really. We
don't know who's ultimately to blame, but I feel like
he was running the promotion at the time, so it's got to be.
And then after all of this, after him doing these very personal things to us, he fires shots at us on his podcast and smart aleck tweets about us.
Yeah.
It's like we felt like we could have so many times went public with what he did to us, and we didn't. We were nice about it. So after he screws us over and basically lets our contract run out, now he
They never even called us.
never even calls and thanked us.
Yeah.
Then he goes
They just
on,
let our contract end, and we literally didn't even get a hey, thanks guys, but we're letting you guys go. Nothing.
Yeah, at one point on our last show, they brought us in. It was a pity booking. He said, "Can you beg for your jobs back at TNA and go get your jobs back? We can't afford you guys. We can't work with." And like at that point, Nick and I just said, "Is this really happening to us?"
Yeah.
So then, for all that to go down, and then for him to take shots at us at our work and stuff, how can you even do that? Like, you're lucky we haven't said at that point. You're lucky we didn't even come out and say anything about how you treated us. If anything, we should be the ones pissed off.
Yeah.
So like, I think that's what really pisses us off was he did this very personal thing to us. And then he's the one burying us on the internet and on his podcast and stuff. And I think, you know what? I think we fell right into the trap and the bait because he loves talking about this stuff because he's got nothing going on. He's got nothing. The guy had to start a Kickstarter to get booked in Europe. Like, and he sees that we're doing big things and we're successful. And it's like, I understand that. Like, you want to take you want to get people to talk. You know what I mean? And that's what you did. Yeah. That's fine. But like at this point, you asked, do you have a beef with him? I do, but like if I saw the guy, I'm not gonna go jump him and start a fight with this old man. I would be cordial and I say hello to him. Would I want to work for him again? Absolutely not.
The Young Bucks, Kerry Silkin always liked him. The Ring of Honor fan base liked him. They had been there before, and Kerry had given them a deal where he was paying each one of them $500 a night apiece, plus a plane ticket from California. Plus hotel, although at that time, before Sinclair got involved, they would put 8 guys in a hotel room. But still, flying these guys all the way from California to and paying them $500 a night. So they, at the time that Sinclair purchased Ring of Honor, the Young Bucks were still under contract to TNA. But they call Hunter Johnston, Delirious, and they want to come in. Is there a spot? And we get them on the phone. And I told him, I said, guys, yes, the audience likes you. We would be interested. Whenever you're finished with your contract there, we've just started this here, so we're putting everything in place. But whenever you're done with your contracts or you're going to be done, let us know. We'll try to work something out. Because their contracts were going to run till at the end of that year, at least another 6 months. They called back like 3 weeks later. Well, we quit. When can we start? What? What? We didn't tell you to fucking quit. See, their whole thing is, well, we went and quit to go there, and then they wouldn't use us. No, we didn't tell them to quit. We said, let us know when your contracts are up. If you're not going to re-sign, if you're still interested, we'll try to work something out. And then suddenly they quit. And now we've got them. I'm like, what the fuck? And we tell Joe Koff, well, we've got the Bucks. Where do they live? California. What? This is when Greg the office boy was trying to get us to book house shows and only buy 6 plane tickets. Try doing that almost anywhere in the country when most of your fucking wrestlers live in the Northeast or Florida. So we end up, because now they're homeless, we felt bad. So we signed and we said, we're going to use you guys on television tapings because we have a bigger budget. We can buy more plane tickets. And see if we can fucking, get you over to where then finally we'll be doing better and they will loosen up on the plane ticket situation. But then that's when I found out how much Kerry had been paying them because they didn't want to take less than they'd been making under Kerry Silkin. So now we've got to fucking pay these 2 fucking little middle school kids $500 a night apiece, which is almost as much as anybody in the company was making at that point, the main event guys.
What hurts me is this is the guy that we just told the story. He screwed us, and then we didn't say anything about him publicly. Nothing about how he screwed us.
Never,
and then he buries us. Like,
never until this day we haven't told this story.
Like, dude, who do you think you are? You're the one that screwed us out of our jobs, and now you're talking bad about us.
Yeah, so I was like, you know what? I'm going to say something on Twitter.
Yeah,
screw him. And Kevin Steen doesn't like him either.
Well,
a lot of guys.
That's why it goes deep for us, is because he's talked trash about Kevin and Generico and Cabana and Kenny and Smash Brothers.
We saw him. Yeah, he screwed Kevin. He
hit Kevin sitting home for 6 months.
He's too big. He's got to lose weight. Yeah. Stay home 6 months. When we think.
And then remember he came back and they had him to stay home another 6 months.
But and at the same time, this guy's getting the biggest reaction out of anyone in the company.
And then he's burying the program that they were doing with Cabana too. Remember, it was the hottest angle,
which now WWE's doing.
We're like, this guy doesn't get it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, why do you think your style didn't mesh with how he perceived the business?
I don't know.
Shocking.
Because you would think
tag team
wrestling,
and that's a big reason why we left TNA is because we're like Jim Cornette knows how to book tag team wrestlers, so this is what's going to be.
But in his defense, it's like it didn't even feel like we really had were given the proper time and platform to even do it. Because I know someone was telling him, you can't book the Young Bucks; their flight's too expensive. So it's like his hands were kind of tied.
Right.
So we never even really had an opportunity to even try to do.
He's definitely the one that gets the blame, though. Because he was the one that had to handle it.
Or someone lied to us, and he was the head guy, so we blamed on him. But even as far as the small amount of times we did work with him, it felt like the references and the spots and the ideas he gave us were so outdated that we would try some of the stuff and it wouldn't get a reaction for the Ring of Honor. Audience of today doesn't react for the Smoky Mountain high spot or the tag hope spot that you came up with, Jim.
No.
So we would have to throw in our own sense. And then he's the same guy that told us to stop doing super kicks, by the way. The thing that
made our
that's what made our career, man. He's the same guy that told us to stop doing certain moves. The
whole ROH office told us to stop doing the crotch chops.
Don't do the crotch chops. It's too indie-rific. Don't do tombstones. What? That's our freaking... At one point, the tombstone was banned, so we couldn't do our giant tombstone.
And that's why our first couple runs in ROH were never outstanding, because it wasn't our own stuff.
We had real tag teams then. We had the Kings of Wrestling, Hero and Claudio. We had the Briscoe brothers. We had Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin. Even Kenny King and Rhett Titus. We're going to put the fucking Young Bucks in front of any of these fucking grown men? And every time we'd book them with somebody, they'd have stinky matches because they got pissed and pitched temper tantrums because we told them not to do all their goofy shit that nobody could live through, and instead have a logical match. So then they'd work flat-footed like Bruiser and Crusher on television to piss us off and show us that they were right and we were wrong.
Fucking Ring of Honor, the Briscoes put up $2,000, and House of Truth puts up $2,000, and the winners of the match gets $4,000. That's so hokey. Or Davey comes out with the American flag, Kevin comes out with the Canadian flag, and we have border wars. I'm like, are you kidding, man? This isn't 1997 anymore. Ring of Honor used to be edgy and cool and different, and now it was just turning into every other TV show. We were losing our identity, and he didn't see it that way, obviously, but that's still what my issue was the whole time. And I don't know, I guess he felt it was disrespectful or something, that I wasn't just like, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir. Like Mike Mondo. Mike Mondo was a great dude, but the reason Jim liked him so much is because fucking, if Jim had said, okay, so here, Mike, you get hit by a car. Okay, Jim, where's the car? You know what I mean? I question things. That makes me hard to work with. I wasn't getting paid enough to just be like, yes, yes, yes. You know what I mean?
Right.
I care, and I am passionate about what I do. So if I feel like I could maybe make it better by voicing my opinion, I will. I'm sorry that Jim construes that as being hard to work with, but I'm not the one who's gotten fired from every job I've ever had. So, I don't know who's hard to work with.
So I couldn't wait to get rid of these motherfuckers, but I was still honoring the contract that we signed with them, that they strong-armed us into signing, but I couldn't wait till it was over with because they fucking stunk. And they had bad attitudes. And we could have put that money towards something that was going to draw us some money at the time, because this was years before the goddamn mass hysteria of how over the Young Bucks were in Japan and how Kenny Olivier was the world's greatest wrestling artist when he flunked out of fucking every wrestling school he ever went to. And they couldn't sell pussy on a troop train, much less a fucking ticket.
And they weren't over in Japan.
And they weren't over in Japan anyway. We had Joe Koff breathing down our neck and Greg the office boy complaining that we're flying these fucking kids in from California. But somehow they have convinced themselves that it was me all along. It was me all along. Joe Koff wasn't saying that. Greg the office boy wasn't saying that. It was Jim Cornette. Well, here's the thing. If they'd have been the Briscoes in the ring, if they'd have been Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin in the ring, If they'd have been the American Wolves in the ring, I would have fought harder for them. But it wasn't me. It was Joe Koff going, why did we adopt these fucking orphan children from California and paying them this much money to come and work underneath matches? Because you can't put them on top because nobody can buy them physically against the fucking main event talent that we have. They didn't like that.
I've spoken to Jim Cornette, and he told me that one of the reasons is because you finally started listening to the things that he was saying.
Let's take a look at that.
Yeah.
He did say that. I know he said that.
He did. He said it to me.
Jim used to not like that I wrestled in a t-shirt and shorts, that I was not jacked, and that I had a beard, and that I basically did whatever I wanted. I don't think I've changed at all. And that's okay. You know why? Because if Jim Cornette is not right, then he feels like, I don't know, he just feels unwell. So you know what, Jim? Dude, you were right.
Infamous YouTube asshole Jim Cornette may not have seen value in the Young Bucks in 2011, but just a few years later, it would become very clear just how valuable they actually were to Ring of Honor. Former Ring of Honor commentator Kevin Kelly would state on the AEW Unrestricted podcast, when the Young Bucks were in Ring of Honor, they had a lucrative offer to join another company. I implored the business manager of Ring of Honor to do all they can to sign the Young Bucks. Overpay if we have to, because they're worth it. And because they were willing to overpay, we got 2 years out of the Young Bucks. In that 2 years, Ring of Honor made more money than it ever had in any other time in their history. And it was the bridge between Matt and Nick getting the opportunity to start All Elite Wrestling. But to really explain the rise of popularity of the Young Bucks between 2014 and 2018, we first need to talk about Bullet Club. Before 2013, very few American wrestlers would find opportunities in New Japan Pro Wrestling. But in 2013, that would dramatically change with the creation of Bullet Club. Initially named and led by Fergal Devitt, now known as Finn Balor in WWE, Bullet Club was a stable of 4 non-native Japanese wrestlers who came up in the New Japan Pro Wrestling Dojo as young boys. The original lineup was Fergal Devitt, Bad Luck Fale, Tama Tonga, and Carl Anderson. Bullet Club quickly became the main heel faction in New Japan Pro Wrestling at the time, and were rather unconventional by Japanese wrestling standards, often cheating to win. Even the most prestigious tournaments where cheating and interference were unheard of. But soon the group would garner success even outside of New Japan Pro Wrestling. It was none other than Kazuchika Okada who suggested to the decision makers in New Japan Pro Wrestling that the Young Bucks should be brought in. For the unaware, Kazuchika Okada, Matthew, and Nicholas Jackson have been really good friends for almost 15 years now.
We got contacted by Okada.
That's right.
Who we befriended in TNA, and like we took care of. He was like our buddy. And he hit us up. He said, yeah, at this point he's already a star. Yep. He says, do you guys want to come to New Japan? We're like,
and you know what? And it's crazy again. It's like how I thought of TNA. I was like, Matt, the next thing we're gonna do is New Japan. I don't know why, but this is our next thing we're gonna do. I remember keep telling you that. Yeah. You remember that?
Yeah, I knew we were gonna. I just
for some reason, and we're like, it's just a matter of time.
We saw the Bullet Club thing, and we were like, God, we fit so well with those guys. We do all that stuff anyway. You know?
And I guess the office was asking Okada if he knew any good junior tags. He said, of course I do. I know the Young Bucks. I'm good friends with them. And then he Facebooked me and he said, okay, they want to book you. Well, no way they want to book you.
So I get a box from Tiger Tori. I thought it was a rip. Right. Like, it's a 70-year-old man who's no boxer. Like, hey, Matt. Is this Matt? Is this Matt? Do you want to come to New Japan, bro? I'm like, this is not Tiger Tori boxing.
We gotta work on your visa, man.
Yeah, we gotta work on your visa, man. I'm like, this is a freaking
He's like, you guys coming out, man, in 2 months. Well, what the heck?
Yeah.
Just like that.
So then we had our visas and we found out we were going to be Bullet Club guys, and we were pumped about that because we've been friends with.
And then we found out they were putting the rocket on our backs the first tour, and literally just pushed us to the moon as soon as possible.
The Young Bucks would end up signing with New Japan Pro Wrestling toward the end of 2013 with one very important condition. They would request that they be able to sell their own merchandise. The Young Bucks would bounce between New Japan, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla in California, and Ring of Honor during this time period, and they would end up holding tag titles in all three companies. By the end of the year, Bullet Club had a new leader in AJ Styles, and Kenny Omega had joined as well. By early 2016, Kenny Omega went on to become the new leader of Bullet Club and win the IWGP Intercontinental Championship. The trio of the Young Bucks and Omega would now call themselves the Elite. This was done to separate themselves from the rest of Bullet Club due to a feeling of animosity with the remaining original members of the group. They would start wearing shirts that they had designed themselves, a simple design, a black t-shirt, white letters that read, The Elite, and this shirt would become a massive seller for them. Nick and Matt would start filming their life on the road as professional wrestlers and uploading it to YouTube under the name of Being the Elite. They would add more members to Bullet Club as well, Adam Cole, Adam Page, and eventually Cody Rhodes. The group of Cody, Adam Cole, Adam Page, and the Young Bucks would spend more time in the United States representing Bullet Club and Ring of Honor, while Omega would stay based in Japan in the main event scene of New Japan Pro Wrestling.
So then we got hot from the New Japan thing, and then they had us come back, and Nick and I said, you know what, we're breaking every rule.
Right.
They're going to tell us not to do all this stuff, we're doing it anyway.
Yeah, and we said,
that's what we did.
You know what, let's just do the stuff we were popular doing, and we did.
And to this day, they still tell us, hey guys, chill out. We get out there, and it's like,
no, you know what's funny?
You know what's funny
now? Now the script on the backstage says no super kicks. Because
they're reserved for us.
They're reserved for us.
It's funny because they hated the super kick thing, but now they announce on their Twitter the super kick party is coming to Philly or where.
Now it's a totally.
But it's a different office.
And I'll be honest, it's so much better.
So much better.
When you guys came back to Ring of Honor, that weekend where you won the tag belts, it was your first weekend back. Remember we did the 6-man tag, us against Elgin and the Briscoes, and we were just being us. Right. You guys were cross.
I had my cast on, so I'm doing like one-handed.
Apparently, after, Ring of Honor management, was complaining, it's like, can you believe the Bucks are doing those cross shots? How Bush League? Why are you even bringing them if you're gonna say that?
That's what we do.
I know. And the worst part is this: people are going ape shit for you guys. Crazy. New York City is losing their mind, and he's worried about. They really shouldn't be doing those cross chops. So, look at the people; they're going crazy.
The next night, it's funny he mentions this because I was in Milwaukee, we did Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago was.
We got pulled aside by one of the guys you're talking about, and he said, and he had a piece of paper. He said, "This is the stuff we're not allowed to do on television." And it said, pointing to your crotch.
That's true. That's a different issue. But what I was told is
Bush League.
He thought it was Bush League.
Okay.
That's an entirely different thing.
thing.
If TV doesn't want to, if the company doesn't want it for TV, fine.
Yeah. Right.
But saying that it's Bush League, first of all, the Milwaukee show wasn't going to be on TV.
It's a house show.
So it doesn't matter.
Well, here's the story though. So we agree. Okay, man, you know what? You're right. No problem. So we get to the ring. And the first thing this effing guy does is this. Yeah, are you kidding me? He does a go like we just told us 20 minutes ago. And then I was like, well, if he's gonna do it, bam, you know, like, yeah, so.
But then right after they booked us to be their champs.
So. You know what else? You know what else is funny too is at one point they told us stop doing the super kick completely.
That was
years ago. That was 2011.
That was ROH Cornette.
Yeah, I have to say that the difference between the Cornette era and the new era is a lot. Me and Matt feel like it's a lot easier.
It's looser.
I feel like we could do whatever we want.
Yeah, I mean they're a lot more open to. Well, it's more fun.
I don't know if we're.
People might think we're ragging on Jim, but it's not. It's just a fact. Look, like you guys. Yeah. It's just so much. It was so much more fun.
We're a tag team. We were booked terribly, and Cornette was the booker, so he didn't know how to handle this tag team.
They told us specifically, and they do it in meetings in front of the boys, which I'm not happy about. They no super kicks tonight, and they look at me and Nick. And it's funny because 2 years we fast forward, and now they're like, the super kick party is coming to whatever.
But what was the? I'm trying to remember what the logic was behind the no super kick back then.
I think it was because Lance Storm was on the shows, and he was using it as his finish, which is I get it. I totally understand. But why point us out in a meeting like that? Like, Cornette.
Yeah, because it's not like 100 dudes who are doing it anymore.
Of course, but we were the guys who are known for overusing it.
Yeah.
And the whole point of that whole super kick thing is too, while we're talking about it, is everyone's like, oh, the Young Bucks do so many super kicks. And Nick and I said, okay, well, we're going to do 30 of them in a match. If we do too many of them, well, I'm going to do more now. You know what I mean? And that's what
I think I was the pioneer of the super kick.
You were.
I'm the one who's just give me like
you and generic. You're like, just give me
Angeles.
10 right here. We called it the super kick execution, I remember at the time.
Yeah, execution.
It was Battle of Los Angeles. You and Jericho.
We did it a couple of times. We did a final battle after.
I think at the time it was fresh though, because not a lot of guys were doing that many of them.
Now it's all over.
But it was our finish though.
And now it's known as our gimmick. So now ROH accepts it and they say, all right, super kick party's coming. It's
part of, that's true. They promote it.
With the Bucks' popularity expanding rapidly, Ring of Honor shows were getting larger, and the company was clearly benefiting greatly from having Bullet Club be a regular part of the promotion. It was between 2017 and 2018 that Ring of Honor made more money than they ever had in any other time in history, and the Bucks would end up benefiting from this boom period as well, but in a rather unconventional and unexpected way. Remember how I said that the Young Bucks had it put in their contract that they would be able to sell their own merchandise? Well, you may have heard people say that AEW is just a t-shirt company. This stems from a deal that the Young Bucks made with Hot Topic in 2017 to sell shirts in their stores across North America. The shirts they were selling were Bullet Club shirts, and they were flying off the shelves in a way that was never seen before. Bullet Club was cool before the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega joined them, but they became a global phenomenon after they joined.
So going from like the starving in Japan to like hustling the $3 shirts and all that to forming the Elite and building this bond between like not just you and Kenny, but bringing in like Hangman Page and stuff like that. Like it's almost like you created a culture, like the YouTube, the blog era, like the social media, and it just took it by storm.
Right.
It's almost like you created a culture within yourselves. And I wouldn't say like, of course there's criticisms out there. It's like people, I would say, believe in it's a club, but I wouldn't call it a club, because if you have like a group of guys that believe in the same hustle, the same grind, the same work ethic, the same passion, and you all believe and have the same like thought process, you kind of want to keep it between yourselves. You don't want to let other people who don't have any disagreements with that in, because that breaks up the process and it doesn't get to an AEW. It doesn't get to an Elite. It doesn't get to this big stage. So talk about like keeping that within your within your I don't want to say club, but your group, your core.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think like we just kind of gravitated to people like Kenny Omega. You know what I mean? In a Hangman Page who would come on way later down the line.
Right.
And if you even want to go prior to the Elite, it's really like the Bullet Club, right? Like
correct.
The same style of guys who really didn't take wrestling too seriously. Like if anything, we all just kind of wanted to do one thing, and that was to have fun. And that was the difference between us and the others. Like sometimes you're in a locker room and some of these guys are just so dead serious about pro wrestling to the point where like it's almost uncomfortable. And we want to have fun, and we want to have a party, and we want everyone in the audience to have a party with us. I mean, if you come and meet us at a meet and greet, you're part of the same party, and we just wanted to create an element of fun. And it was almost like for us, like it was like lightning in a bottle, because all of these same characters and these people we were friends with in real life. Like we were in these group chats that went 24/7, and we would go out to dinner afterward. It wasn't like someone booked us to be this group. It was, and that's actually kind of how it happened at first, right?
Right.
But we've kind of learned along the way, like, God, we're all so in common. This is crazy.
Yeah, we're best friends.
Yeah,
this is crazy.
Like we like, have you ever been like you just met someone and you're like, I feel like I've known you my whole life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
That's how it was with Luke Gallows.
Yeah, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson.
Yeah.
Like if we're talking about the Bullet Club
awesome.
stuff. Yeah. And Kenny, we'd known Kenny since 2008. Yeah. So when he naturally joined Bullet Club, we were like, oh, this
perfect fit.
Dude, we've missed you, man. And he fit
what
right
was the
in.
craziest thing about it was we were such marks for the NWO. That's what like inspired us as like teenagers. So we're like, oh my God, we could do the same thing those guys did in WCW, but bring it to New Japan. Let's do it.
It was the same exact thing.
Yeah,
I like same colors.
Just realizing it all right now, huh?
I love
same this. It was just everything. Everything.
I love there's this discourse online. It's like, you know what you're doing, right? We're like, yeah,
exactly.
Like y'all not in on the
right.
joke.
We were marking out,
Right.
and we're the biggest marks. We got into pro wrestling, so we were having fun. We were reliving our teenage years in front of everyone. It was great, and we felt like. I'm sorry to cut you off, but when we were doing that, we felt like the American audience wasn't seeing what we were doing, having so much fun out in Japan.
And a lot of times they weren't at first.
So I had the idea of vlogging what we were doing, and that's what being the elite became, was let's just vlog what we're doing out here because we're having so much fun. I think it'll translate to the American audience. And sure enough, it picked up quick, and people enjoyed seeing us have a good time. So.
And that wasn't even supposed to be what it was, right? Like being the elite. At first, it was just me, Kenny, and Nick.
It's just going to be a travel vlog.
No, not even. Not before that, I'm saying. Like, we would just create these little 6-second vines.
Right. Yes, I remember that.
And little funny YouTube clips. And everything was always like, 6 seconds, like on Vine.
Yeah.
Or then we started expanding. We were like, oh, hey, Twitter video lets you do 52 seconds. Oh, hey, YouTube, it's unlimited. It's like we were just doing sketches. Right. And eventually we were like, Nick came up with the idea. He's like, we should do like a little mini documentary every week.
Yeah.
And Kenny and I were like, oh, that's a
we were
terrible
doing
idea.
The traveling. I'm like, why not? I have this camera in my pocket that could do it. So let's just do it and try it. And they were totally against it at first. They're like, nah, that's too much work. I was like, I'll just do it. I'll film it. I'll edit it. I knew nothing about any of that crap. I was just
learn it
going
all
on
your
the
own
fly. And sure enough, it did well. And I'm happy I did it.
The cultural takeover would become an actual takeover when in episode 73 of Being the Elite, Bullet Club would invade a WWE event as part of a crazy fictional storyline. An executive from the WWE known as The Stooge had ordered Bullet Club to stop using the "suck it" catchphrase and the "too sweet" hand gesture. As part of the storyline, Hangman Adam Page was kidnapped, tied up, and forced to watch WWE programming. He would escape, but it was time to seek revenge. A call was put out to local fans to organize at the local Hot Topic, and hundreds of fans wearing Bullet Club merch arrived, and most of the video was shot right there and then edited to look like it was outside of where Raw would be filmed later that day. Then they also took their show on the road and actually drove to the arena to get the final shots. The video that resulted got close to 1 million views at the time and now has well over 1 million views. Things got real. The WWE then sent an actual cease and desist letter stating that they did own the "too sweet" hand gesture and demanded that they stop selling any merchandise where it would appear and to not use it in the ring.
I'm wondering, what does a cease and desist letter actually physically look like?
I could show you, but it would cost $150,000.
I actually considered making gear with it just all over. I'm like, I probably legally can't do that. It's a really lengthy letter with really strong words that try to scare you, basically. And then the logo on the bottom.
But like, if you guys are traveling all the time, how do they actually get it in your hands?
I had an email. I heard they FedEx it to you. I just got an email. That was it.
But does it still mean the same thing if it's emailed?
I don't think so.
Yeah, they don't know if you even opened that email.
That's true.
Although it's on camera now, but someone else could have opened that email.
That's very true. I feel like I've heard stories about them sending emails, and then if you don't get a response, they'll actually give you a physical, like...
yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. So it's one suite now, right?
Yeah, it's one suite.
It's just whatever the hell we want it to be.
Could it be 3 suite after tonight?
Yeah, it could be. It's
Not the same ring to it, but you know what I mean?
Look, the whole point of it is that we just don't need 2 Sweet.
We never needed it.
Yeah, they think that by taking away 2 Sweet that they've crippled us somehow. We're really sticking it to them. Now they're not going to sell any merchandise. Yeah. Not the case. We could care less.
We've sold more, actually, to be honest. Yeah.
Oh, the best opening day for a T-shirt we've ever had, was our Cease and Desist T-shirt. like by far, blow away.
So how quickly did you guys come up with the idea of, well, if we can't do 2 suite, we'll just do 1 suite?
It was Kenny's idea.
Yeah, it just, I mean,
almost immediately.
Yeah.
And then it was a T-shirt like the next day.
Yeah.
Digits, you know what I mean?
Yeah, give me those
Yeah,
digits.
yeah, it was, give me those. I came up with the phrase, give me those digits or whatever. So I thought it was pretty funny, just because the word digit is, as used for the fingers, is good.
Let's touch digits.
As far
I
as
like
the
it, yeah.
cease and desist, I knew we were gonna have a T-shirt. Like I opened the email, and like I didn't even finish reading the email yet, and I already know I was doing a cease and desist T-shirt.
It's hard to describe just how hot Bullet Club, the Elite, and the Young Bucks were at this time. It literally led to the formation of All Elite Wrestling. If you get time, I urge you to go back and watch Ring of Honor from 2017 through 2018. You can literally see each pay-per-view show getting bigger and more insane, leading right up to the first All In. It was a wild time in professional wrestling.
I went to a few Ring of Honor shows during their like heyday of running around with the Bucks and Kenny Omega, kind of the precursor to AEW when they were working with a lot of guys that they would eventually snack up from Ring of Honor. So I got to see a lot of it up close and not a lot of it. It only went to like fewer than 5, but in retrospect, it was a decent little bit of their kind of pre-AEW run in Ring of Honor.
Yeah, definitely. It was a real precursor to All Elite Wrestling. And I'm glad you got to see it because a lot of people have just forgotten that it happened.
Oh, yeah. There was that whole... there was one time in particular, I wanted to say it was like in Indianapolis or something like that. And it was this small little venue. It was so cool. This little concert hall. And it was just everybody was there. It was the Machine Guns. It was Bullet Club. It was such a cool show. And all of them were like that, where it was just these guys that would go on to eventually be AEW mainstays living it up in Ring of Honor.
Yeah, that's cool. I wanted to get you on here and talk about it because the Bucks take a lot of heat. They got a lot of heat now.
Mm-hmm.
And people act like no one's ever liked them and that they were forced on us. Which I think is a really weird take. Was anyone there at the shows like forcing you to like the Young Bucks, or were they like whipping people?
No, don't. These guys are just they became so popular that it became cool to hate them.
Yeah.
Like, that's really what we're looking at here. People want to point to super kick parties and stuff ruining wrestling. Like, get out of here. They revolutionized what it meant to be an independent wrestler, and they did that with their popularity. They didn't just do that out of some kind of political agenda pushing the Young Bucks down your throat. They did that by their own merit.
I mean, I think if professional wrestling at the time had its way, the Young Bucks would not have ever have broken through. It was very much a fan-supported movement. It was the people that put the Young Bucks in power. It's the people that bought the Bullet Club shirts and came out to the Ring of Honor shows and showed guys like Tony Khan that the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, the Elite, are a crazy draw. I mean, what was that like at the time to be at a Ring of Honor? I mean, they were the main event.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what everyone was there for. I mean, how many Bullet Club t-shirts were in the audience?
Oh my God, they were everywhere. It was a sea of Bullet Club fans. When I tell you that I stood in line to meet Kenny Omega, and now beforehand you had to buy this little ticket, and it showed what wrestler you were in line to meet. So even though Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks were next to each other, if I only had a Kenny Omega ticket, I was only going to the front of the line to take a picture and get him to sign it, whatever. When I tell you that you just walk past table after table after table after table of indie vets, of WWE Hall of Famers,
oh my God,
of all these amazing wrestlers just twiddling their thumbs, playing on their phones, doing literally nothing, waiting for someone to come up with a ticket to meet them. And the line for Omega and the Bucks went all the way around the top of the scaffolding, down the stairs, and to another merch table.
This is Thunder Rosa from the Graveyards of Tijuana, Mexico. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, The Parts Unknown, and Grave Diggers keep digging.
At the start of this video, I explained how the story of All Elite Wrestling would be told in the style of Rashomon, and that seemed extra fitting given the amount of time we would spend in Japan. So I find it extra fitting that our next character in this tale is that of a cowboy, since many of Kurosawa's films were adapted into westerns in the 1960s.
First thing I wanted to be was a clown. I got into circuses, and I was through circuses in the backyard. We had my dad had horses. He'd bring the horses and do horse tricks, and I was 6 or 7 years old putting on circuses for the family or whoever in the backyard. And then I got into magic. I had my parents built me a little magic show stand, and I did little magic tricks and stuff. What? And then I got into wrestling, and my parents built me a little trampoline wrestling ring in the backyard, and that one, I just never grew up on that one, I guess, and I'm just still doing it.
How much has Bullet Club, changed the trajectory of your career?
180.
On May 9th, 2016, during the first night of the War of the Worlds tour, Page joined the heel faction Bullet Club by turning on Colt Cabana, the Briscoes, and the Motor City Machine Guns during a 10-man tag team main event. Page hung Chris Sabin with a hangman's noose, and on that day became known as the Hangman. In regards to his new gimmick, Page said in an interview with the Pittsburgh City paper, "I found out that as I was joining Bullet Club and going to work for New Japan just a few weeks before it happened, and it was something that kind of took me by surprise. I hadn't anticipated going in that direction, but it was a great surprise. It caught me off guard. And one of the things that was suggested to me, since Adam Cole was joining Bullet Club, was that I had some sort of different name. Someone from New Japan suggested the Hangman Page, and I'd take the Gallows from Luke Gallows and fill that role a bit. Looking back, it's something I wish I wouldn't have done, or I would have done differently, but I think at the time, I was rushed to get the gear ordered, to figure out who I was going to be, what I was going to be, and at this point, I figured it out, but with just 2 weeks notice, I had the noose for a while, and I tried to be sensitive as I could about it in every way I possibly could, but I still had people writing to me who were kind about it, but who had family members that had committed, and it made them uncomfortable. Or maybe the racial connotations of me carrying a noose were uncomfortable, and I get that. I tried to be really sensitive about it, but it was something I wanted to get away from. I still carry a big untied rope with me to the ring, and honestly, I carry it out of habit than anything. I've kept the name because it's kind of a cool sounding name, and at this point, people connect it with me. It just became my name.
We slide in, Hangman's not in the ring with us. Like, where the hell's Hangman at? He's like limping in the
bumping
ring.
and feeding.
We haven't even, Bell hasn't even run yet.
I slid in the ring. We were going to just be fighting back and forth. I slid in the ring and took the center and stood in one spot, never moved either feet, and just went like this until Taven rolled out of the ring, I think. Got everybody outside. We're going to do like triple tope or whatever.
Yeah,
you guys start to run, and as you run, I'm like, I can't dive, and just do this.
He does
and you
this
guys,
with his fingers. Like, he's in the middle directing traffic. And like Nick and I, what is Hangman? But he hasn't explained to us what the hell's going on.
So then I'm standing in the ring all awkward. The match goes on, whatever, and I'm looking across, trying with my eyes to tell these guys, I'm very hurt. I'm not going to do like any of that. I'm just gonna. I don't know. We'll figure it out. So I did like 2 or 3 things and then tagged right back out.
I remember because Nick and I, he must have blown both his ACLs out. Like, he couldn't walk. Like he's literally moving like this. So like for some reason this psychopath. He does most of the comeback is just like punching. He's stationary. He's not moving. He's just punch. And the guy takes a bump and he looks at me and Nick. We're like, no, don't do it, because we knew at the end of the comeback was a standing shooting star press.
Right.
We're like, your legs, don't do it. He freaking goes for it. He almost breaks his neck. I'm like, why? What are you doing?
I've got 2 pulled groins and I'm doing a standing shooter.
Yeah, so you barely pull it off.
I remember Paige wouldn't tell us what was wrong. He just kept saying, I'm hurt. I was like, what is wrong with you,
I'm hurt.
So I'm hurt. I'm hurt.
So then the peak of this whole story comes from at the end when we have to do a triple super kick.
There's a picture somewhere of us doing like on one guy, triple super kick on one guy. You guys are both kicking him in the face, and I'm in the picture. I'm like this. I'm just standing in the ring like this. Like, I'm probably not even touching him.
The match was completely ruined. Like,
it was by far the worst match.
So it was awful. We get to the back. We're like, Paige, did you blow both of your knees out? What the hell happened out there? Like, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. My legs. We're like, well, what happened? You finally told us. We were like, why did you try to do a shooting star press?
I know. I thought I could do it.
You were so sad, and we were laughing our asses off. We're like, dude, you just made us have the most fun moment of our career. Don't worry about it. If we had a great match, it wouldn't have been as good as the moment I'm having right now, laughing at this. Like I look back now, it's like literally it was one of the funniest nights of my life. We thought your career was over. We were like, he blew both of his quads or his AC. He's done because you couldn't walk. I've never seen anyone this bad. And then you're like 5 days later, I checked in. And you're like, yeah, no, I'm fine. We were like, what?
It is impossible to tell the story of All Elite Wrestling without also telling the story of Cody Rhodes. So much of Cody's drive to prove himself after being held back in WWE for so many years was directly channeled into the creation of AEW.
When you're so hungry and you're sitting behind WWE stage and they're not utilizing you properly, and your hands are tied because creatively they got nothing for you, it's bullshit. When you're hungry and young and fresh and as good as he is.
In May of 2016, Cody Rhodes was granted his release from WWE. Cody said his placement within the company was a key reason for him leaving. Following his release, Cody Rhodes would post the famous list. The list was featuring people he wanted to face and things he wanted to do now that he was gone from WWE.
Seemed like you had the list ready quick. Like, is this a list that was in your head while you were in WWE?
Well, when you're sitting there for 3 to 6 months planning your escape, like you're coming up with everything you can think of. Like, well, how can, because social media is the ticket now as far as people's continued ability to follow you.
Yes.
You don't need TV as much as we once did. Like, oh, out of sight, out of mind is not real anymore because they can follow on social and there's all these different platforms. It's essentially a business. So I called it a rollout. And little known fact, a few other guys said that they were also going to leave, that they were frustrated, they were unhappy. So there was kind of like this rallying
We're
cry.
right behind you, Cody.
And then like D-Day comes and just me.
Following his departure from WWE in 2016, Rhodes began wrestling on the independent circuit and making several appearances in TNA, where he wrestled simply as Cody, due to the WWE owning the Cody Rhodes name. In addition to working in smaller independent wrestling companies in the United States and Japan, in the summer of 2016, the most impactful appearances he would make would be in the rapidly growing Ring of Honor promotion that at the time had recently been purchased by the Sinclair Broadcast Group. Ring of Honor was initially on the fence if booking Cody would be a good idea for the expanding company. I think they would be concerned that he would potentially rock the boat. What they were doing was working so well for them. Adding an unknown element like an ex-WWE guy could potentially be taken poorly by the fans. When Cody had initially left the WWE, a mutual friend of the Young Bucks and Cody, Kevin Steen, now known as Kevin Owens, gave the Bucks a call and asked them to look after Cody now that he had swam off the island. There was a serious fear at the time if you left the WWE, your career would basically be over since there just weren't any other wrestling companies that could provide what they offered at the time. So when the decision makers at Ring of Honor asked the Young Bucks, who were on the verge of signing big contracts with Ring of Honor, if they should book Cody, the Bucks vouched for him after only briefly meeting him at a small show prior to the meeting. All fears were set aside when Cody arrived to a hero's welcome at Ring of Honor, but cheers would turn to boos when his first match in the company he would defeat Jay Lethal using a low blow, then proceed to attack Lethal and a referee, flipped off the Ring of Honor fans, and then roughed up one of the guys on commentary. He wasn't truly hated for this though. The Ring of Honor audience actually seemed to love this new asshole version of Cody. The worse he would behave, the more they would cheer him. Cody embraced this new heel persona and took it even further at the end of 2016 by joining Bullet Club, the notorious heel faction based in New Japan Pro Wrestling, along with new friends, the Young Bucks. Cody, along with the Young Bucks, Adam Cole, and Adam Page, would go on to represent Bullet Club in Ring of Honor, while the current leader of the faction, Kenny Omega, would remain in New Japan Pro Wrestling. A storyline would unfold where Cody would attempt to assume leadership of the Bullet Club during this time when the group was separated between two companies. Cody Rhodes and Kenny Omega had a match. These guys fucking wrestled. It never happened in AEW, and it did happen in Ring of Honor, though, as part of this storyline. So this storyline was really cool. It was a really fun thing to check out. If you haven't checked out the storyline between Cody and Omega that happened during this time frame, it was really cool. Also, during this time frame, Cody would become a fixture on the Young Bucks YouTube channel, and he would come up with some of the most classic moments in the channel's history.
The tale of the independent contractor. No health care.
No. What? No health care? No. Huh? You scared? Marty, you fucking scared? Huh? Oh, okay. What about this? You guys know Christmas?
I love Christmas.
You know Christmas?
Yeah, Christmas.
Guess what?
Shut up.
You'll be on a fucking plane.
Oh,
No, that's too far. That's too far.
Now's the time. Matt, Nick, myself, we are self-financing an event. All in. The goal is 10,000 people, and the place is my honor.
No.
It is my.
I get to announce where it is.
Why do you get it?
Why? You don't even have the damn shirt on. You selfish prick.
Whoa.
We're running this show.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Hey.
No. Listen, I'm the brains behind the operation. I have the biggest arms in the group. It's my time.
No, I'm making the announcement. I got a Sharpie, I've stretched out my hog, and I've written...
In 2017, Cody would ride his building momentum all the way to a Ring of Honor World Championship run, and Cody would take Ring of Honor further than they'd ever been before. In May of 2017, wrestling journalist Dave Meltzer suggested that an independent wrestling show would be unable to sell out a 10,000-seat arena in the United States. Cody would famously reply, "I'll take that bet, Dave." So Rhodes, along with the Young Bucks, started planning a show specifically for the purposes of drawing 10,000 fans. In May of 2018, it was announced that the show would be named All In. On May 13th, 2018, tickets to All In sold out in 30 minutes. The original All In was a huge success and worth watching from start to end if you haven't seen it. In my opinion, Cody should have headlined this thing. By far, his match was the most over of the night, seeing that he wins the NWA World Championship, the same belt that his father had won 3 times during his career. Wrestling fans may know this title better as the Big Gold Belt. I could explain the history of this belt better in another video because the full story is totally confusing, since the belt that was used in WCW was the NWA Championship, but then it wasn't, and then maybe it was, and now it looks like this. But look, none of that shit matters, okay? It's an important fucking belt, and Cody won it, and the goddamn crowd went nuts. At the end of 2018, Cody would announce that he was no longer with Bullet Club, but instead was only part of the Elite, along with Omega, the Young Bucks, Hangman Adam Page, and Marty Scurll. On January 4th, 2019, All Elite Wrestling was unveiled during a conference in Jacksonville, Florida, with Cody revealing that he, along with Matt and Nick Jackson of the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, would serve as executive vice presidents, as well as on-air talent. Both Cody and the Young Bucks signed 5-year contracts with the promotion.
The 3 of us and a cast of our bandit friends disrupted the very way that professional wrestling functioned. We broke all of the rules. We were eventually approached by the Khan family, and they had a question for the 3 of us. The question was, do you guys really want to change the world? We said, yep.
Tony Khan saw a lot of factors in the landscape of professional wrestling that gave him the indication that starting a new brand, it would be a great time. There was an opening in the market. It was prime opportunity. The other factor is that a lot of contracts were all expiring in 2019, so there was a huge opportunity to sign a bunch of guys that had a whole lot of heat on them that the WWE either was thinking about signing or wasn't thinking about signing or whatever. We're talking about the Young Bucks. We're talking about Cody. We're talking about Kenny Omega from New Japan, from Ring of Honor. All the stars aligned, and that's why we have AEW. Can you give us some more insight into why that happened and why the door was open for AEW?
Everybody else that had ever been putting money into an alternative has died. The WCW is gone. TNA got sold to Anthem, and they're doing I don't know what now, right? Like, there are just no one's in it. When All In hit and proved that outside of wrestling, because it's a niche audience, to the general audiences, there's real potential in a competitive brand, and there are workers, like there are performers that you can get that will put on a compelling show. You have a lot of valuable talent that's just underutilized or undervalued. Rey Mysterio is a key example of this. Not that he's a guy you should pay to defect, but he's a guy who gets undervalued a lot, especially in the circles. So when you build that frustration of there's so much more we can do, and there's so much more that can be done, but our bosses, our company, our platform just wants to focus on like these 9 guys for, at that point, nearly 10 years. Like it had been it still is a pretty stagnant top area. An alternative creates a big vacuum for any talent that wants to show what they can do and knows they probably will also get undervalued because either they know guys who have been, or they just don't want to work that sort of slower style that the WWE.
So I think what I'm gathering here is that the WWE was mismanaging its assets.
100%.
And that kind of opened the door, and that's why you saw such an exodus. John Moxley, I think, is a really good example of a guy who, as soon as there was an opening, took that opening and went to AEW. Jericho was huge, the first guy to really open that door, and a guy who said he would never do anything against the WWE literally did the biggest thing against WWE by jumping onto AEW right at the start. And your top performers that were out there at the time, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, the foundation of AEW, Lucha Brothers. We've got a bunch of people who are unorthodox, who did not want to bend and fit into the WWE system, whose contracts were up in 2019. Maybe that is what was being viewed by Tony Khan at the time, because he said plenty of times that if the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega and Cody weren't all those guys, if they weren't all on board, there would be no AEW. He wouldn't have signed the dotted line. He wouldn't have created the company if even one of those factors wasn't there. But since he got all of those factors in there, that's why AEW was created.
Cody, that was like their first crop of like, these are our top of the top. These are our guys that we're using as, what's the word I'm looking for? Publicity, I guess. Like they're the ones that we're using to get like a mainstream appeal. These are our Mount Rushmore. Like this is our big 4 or 5 guys that we're going to build the entire company around. And Hangman was eventually added in there, but at the time he was like a young project kind of, where they knew they wanted him to be one of those guys, but on paper he wasn't yet. And I mean, now he's bigger than a lot of them.
I feel like Cody got more love in AEW because he was really seen as an All Elite Wrestling original character for all intents and purposes, especially if you hadn't followed Ring of Honor. And he wasn't really the same in Ring of Honor. I mean, what we see in All Elite Wrestling, I've mentioned it a few times, was really a new Cody that we'd never seen before.
Right. It was really his first steps into being the megastar that he is today. It was the groundwork and people immediately gravitated to him, just like they still do to this day. It was the beginning of his stardom character.
Yeah, like I don't even know if you want to call it the American Nightmare. The American Nightmare is what he was in Ring of Honor. It was a heel character.
Right, I picture that being more the one flipping off the crowd and wearing his pilot jacket that had like the fur on the inside.
There you go. That's the Ring of Honor one, and people think they want that one back, but that actually was pretty cringe.
Mm-hmm.
That heel Cody is actually a pretty cringe-worthy thing. This character that popped up in All Elite Wrestling still called himself the American Nightmare, but I guess you'd call him Homelander Cody, right?
Right, yeah.
Kind of that. And he evolved into it, too. He didn't start off with that. He evolved into that over time, and that's the character that ended up in the WWE, and that's the character that apparently is the face of that company, right? That's a damn good character. In this video, we have seen the formation of the Elite and the eventual creation of All Elite Wrestling. But not every member of the Elite would be signed to AEW in 2019. What happened to the one who was left behind? Marty Scurll had it all. In 2018, he was a part of the hottest stable in the business, Bullet Club. Not only that, but he was a member of the Elite, along with the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, and Cody Rhodes. In 2019, he was number 4 on Pro Wrestling Tees for the amount of merch he was selling. He was able to main event an NWA pay-per-view, had a high-profile feud with Jay White in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and was a staple in the main event scene of Ring of Honor. Marty seemed to be certain to join All Elite Wrestling as well, and probably would have been there right at the start had his contract run out along with the rest of the Elite. Instead, he signed full-time to Ring of Honor, who had a different structure for their deals. His contract therefore ran out the year after the other members, meaning he would have to wait for AEW to form before he could make his debut. If you would like to know more about what happened to Marty Scurll, make sure you check out that video on this channel. And if you would like to help support this channel, the best way to do that is to join our Patreon. For just $1 a month, you can keep videos like this coming. We have also been posting Patreon exclusive content that cannot be found anywhere else. So when you run out of videos on this channel, you can find even more for just $1. The other way you can help support us is to subscribe.
And ring that bell a few times until it turns solid. Apparently, if you just click it once, it's not good enough. Why isn't it good enough? I don't know. It doesn't seem fair, does it? What can I say? YouTube can be pretty unreasonable when it comes to these things. And here's the sad truth. Even if you subscribe and ring the bell until it promises to alert you when new videos drop, it probably still won't. So what will you need to do if you like this channel and you want to see all the videos released here is to go and get a 4x6 postcard and write to YouTube directly. Tell them that you very much like the videos on the MrHartgrave from Parts Unknown channel, and please, please, please notify me when new videos drop. Short of that, my best advice would be to simply come back once a week and click on the videos tab on the channel and see what I posted this week and watch all the videos you haven't seen. Trust me, they're all super good. Especially that 1-hour video on Will Ospreay that totally didn't break my brain and leave me a broken shell of the man I used to be. The reputation of the Young Bucks with the All Elite Wrestling fanbase was in peril.
A thing that's important to us wrestlers is our reputation and our legacies. And it does feel like, you know, there's a black eye on everything we've built all these years.
There's Phoenix, man. What's happened to this place? Because I don't even recognize AEW anymore. Sometimes I don't even know what to come back to. This is the thing that we built and it's become this. At this point, I'm not sure if we should just let it go or if we should carry on.
Carry on my wayward
No. Next time we do an entrance, we can get into it. But right now, we're pissed off. Get out of here.
It's the end of the loop. We're finally back home here in Ontario, California.
We're officially back.
We're officially back. We, however, have been technically backstage
for a few weeks,
but now, like, we've been on screen, we've wrestled, we've done it, and we're back. Now, Being the Elite is back, and everything's kind of back to reality.
You know what? It didn't feel like we were officially back though until last night.
Yeah.
Like we were around for 4 weeks, but it didn't feel like there was something missing, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that something missing was us performing live. So we did that. We scratched that itch, and we're back.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say.
I've had anxiety thinking.
I was gonna say the same thing.
Been anxious. Didn't know if I could still perform at a high level.
I was actually waking up in cold sweats. I haven't been sleeping. People don't understand because we haven't been able to really talk about it. But it's been
stressful.
2 of the hardest months of my life. I know you too, and my family, and here we are. We got through it.
Yep.
You just never know what's going to happen until you do it. And just to hear the support last night, and just to hear how happy and to see how happy a lot of people were to see us, that really meant the world to us and Kenny. And it felt good. And we're going through the healing process right now. But I think last night was a big step for us to get there. I feel good, and we got to come out to a song that we grew up listening to with our dad.
Hey guys, should we cheat tonight?
I think so. I think we're gonna have to because I'm not prepared.
Yeah, I feel the hostility of the crowd all around me.
Mentally, I'm not prepared. So we might have to cheat.
The crowd's mean to us. I'm cheating.
Just heads up, FYI.
All right, I love cheating, so I'm down to do that for you guys.
If you guys don't respect me, then I'm not gonna respect you too.
Right.
That's the way I feel about it.
Okay.
So if they're being disrespectful, we cheat tonight.
Yep.
Gotcha.
After Full Gear in November 2023, the Young Bucks went on a 2-month hiatus before returning with a new look and more serious demeanor in January 2024.
I'm going to call us by our God-given names of Nicholas and Matthew Jackson. You see, we're executive vice presidents around here, and it's time to take this job a little more serious.
Let me ask you a question. What would you do to preserve and protect your life's work? What would you do to preserve and protect your baby? And also, what would you be willing to lose? Would you be willing to lose your relationship with coworkers and your friends? And how about your reputation or your legacy out the window? You know, and if you knew all that in hindsight, would you still do it if it meant that there would be a healthy, sustainable, thriving wrestling company called AEW? Yeah. You know what? I know my answer. We used to say, change the world. That was the slogan. Change the world. And we did. We were disruptors. We were rebels. We spat in the face of tradition. We were doing that. We were changing the world. And somewhere along the way, we did lose our way. It was like the culture shifted and toxicity creeped into the locker rooms, and the perception of the company was just different. That's all. It was just different. Okay. And I think I know why. I think it's because we started to lean on yesterday's self-serving, superficial, cancerous superstars.
After losing the tag team championships to Private Party, the Young Bucks would abandon Jack Perry and AEW, fearing what Jon Moxley and his Death Riders would do to them. Oh yeah, and they left Brandon Cutler behind as well. He's probably fine. It seems like the end of the Elite.
Right.
I think Kenny Omega is the biggest unknown for the future of what the Elite is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the theory that I've seen most out there on the internet is that, you know, when Kenny Omega returns, the Young Bucks will return. They'll just be faces. And then that's it. That's it for the new one.
What about all the Okada shit?
I don't know.
Didn't they jump Omega, the one Dynamite he was on?
I think we've seen plenty of times over the history of the Elite that the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega might end up on opposite sides, but they always end up back together.
Right.
They're actual friends.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the closest friendship that there is here, is between the Bucks and Omega. And, you know, I think Hangman, Okada, and now Jack Perry have all, you know, endeared themselves to the group. And I think they'll either, you know, have them as rivals or have them be a part of the group. But I think, you know, the core of the Elite is Omega and the Young Bucks. They're the ones that changed the world.
Mm-hmm.
They've been together through all of this. And I look forward to seeing their return. Speaking with Justin Barrasso for the Undisputed website, Nicholas Jackson was asked to comment on all of the online chatter predicting the demise of AEW in 2024. He would say, "People have been predicting our demise since Hangman flipped his phone over and showed the world the AEW logo on that special Being the Elite episode. People have been rooting against my brother and me, specifically, our entire lives. But I don't know if we'd know what to do with ourselves if we didn't have that chip on our shoulders. It's kind of all we know. I have learned, though, that you can keep proving the doubters wrong. They'll just continue to move the goalpost. It's a fool's errand if you think you'll ever change their minds. So let it fuel you all you want. Let it inspire you. But don't think that they're all of a sudden going to have that light bulb moment and admit they're wrong. It's never going to happen. They'll find a new thing to claim against you. They'll continue to engagement farm. They'll continue to parrot silly nicknames from shock jock grifters. Just win for yourself and let history speak for itself. With more unprecedented success comes even more noise."
There'll be peace when you are done. Where you was that like lay your weary head to rest? Was like oh yeah, lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more.